The room was silent, save for the crackle of the fireplace and the soft hum of the underground ventilation system. Maya sat motionless in a stiff leather chair, her hands tightly clenched under her thighs. Across from her, in his usual grand pose, was the man, the devil behind the charm, the collector of beautiful faces and master of unspeakable games. Tonight was different. He had summoned her, not to devour, not to scold, but to watch. On the massive screen before them, a girl cried out in horror as two tigers paced toward her trembling form. Her cage had been unlocked minutes ago. Now she stood barefoot on the cold concrete floor of the arena, nowhere to run, her whimpers drowned in the eerie hum of classical music playing softly through hidden speakers. Maya turned her face slightly, not in weakness, but strategy. Her tears welled up just enough to appear genuine, while her left eye, coated in a special, almost invisible contact lens, captured every frame. He didn't know. She had been studying his routines for weeks. She knew when he took his wine, when he triggered the cages, and when his guards rotated shifts. She even knew the passcode to the elevator shaft that led to the forbidden levels underground. But none of that mattered if he found out. What Maya didn't know, what chilled her blood now as she sat next to him, was that earlier that day, he had paused mid-step on the spiral staircase. Something in the air had shifted. Someone had pinged his security network. The tech team he paid handsomely had confirmed it. Unknown signals had been traced back to one of the inner layers of his fortress. He had dismissed them with a calm nod, but inside, a storm had begun. Now he turned to Maya, offering her a slice of blood orange from a small plate beside him. "You're different," he said quietly. "Brave. Most girls scream. You, observe." Maya gave a small smile, the kind that could pass as gratitude or fear. She took the slice and bit into it slowly, giving the lens more time to record the beast's face, the room, the reflection of the screen in his wine glass. Somewhere, hundreds of miles away, a group of tech experts sat in a dark command room. Screens glowed around them. Maya's feed streamed silently in real time. Her every blink, turn, and glance was being analyzed and archived. A woman in glasses leaned forward, pointing at something. Pause. Zoom in. That panel, bottom left. Looks like a hidden switch. Her partner frowned. He's got trapdoors. Back in the underground mansion, Maya was escorted back to her cell after the viewing. Inside her steel box, barely large enough to stretch her legs, she pulled out a bent metal pin she had stolen from the serving tray earlier. She had done this before, disabling small screws in the air vent that connected to the hallway. She had 14 minutes. That was how long it usually took for the guards to complete a circuit on her level. She whispered, 6 minutes to open, 6 to reseal, under her breath as she worked. Her goal wasn't to escape. Not yet. It was to map the dungeon. Each hallway, every camera angle, and all guard positions had to be committed to memory, and secretly recorded by her lens. Then came the twist. As she pushed the vent cover aside and began crawling through the narrow tunnel, a loud metallic clang echoed behind her. She froze. Voices. Male. "I swear I heard something, over here." 2 guards. They were faster than expected. Maya's heart pounded as she scrambled forward, dirt and dust stinging her eyes. She reached a corner and flattened herself just in time as a flashlight beam pierced the space behind her. Meanwhile, in the command center, panic erupted. "She's exposed," one of the analysts shouted. "We need a distraction. Can we trigger a signal drop?" The team leader shook her head. "No. If we pull the signal, she's blind. And he'll know." Back in the crawlspace, Maya reached a second vent. It opened into what looked like a long-unused storage chamber, filled with rusted chains, broken mannequins, and old theater props. And then she saw it, a phone. Old. Dusty. Landline-based. But real. She reached for it and slowly lifted the receiver. No dial tone. Of course. But there was something better, a wire. And Maya knew how to listen. Back at HQ, one of the cyber agents gasped. She's found a line. She's listening. They scrambled to connect audio filters as Maya carefully rewired the phone's stripped copper cable into her contact lens's transmitter. She whispered. This is Maya. I'm inside. He suspects something. We need a move, soon. But as the words left her lips, a chilling voice echoed through the chamber, right behind her. Talking to someone, Maya? She turned slowly. He was there. Alone. No guards. No weapons. Just his presence, calm and commanding. He stepped forward, eyes never leaving hers. You're smart. That's why I liked you. But you've been too smart lately. Maya tried to step back, but he raised a hand. Don't. I'm not here to kill you. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded photograph. It was her sister, dirty, bruised, but alive. She's still here, he said. And if you want her to stay that way, you'll stop whatever it is you're doing. He crushed the photo in his fist. Maya's lens caught everything. But her breath caught more. He knew. And now, the game had changed. Maya stood frozen as the man stepped closer, the sound of his polished shoes echoing through the chamber. His shadow stretched across the dust-laced floor, devouring the space between them. The only thing louder than the silence was Maya's heartbeat, racing, hammering against her chest as if begging for an escape her body couldn't offer. I handpicked you, the man said quietly, his voice almost kind. You weren't like the others. You looked me in the eye that first day. I admired that. Maya said nothing. Her mind, however, was on overdrive, calculating, planning, remembering every piece of advice from her academy trainers: never show fear. Fear is a trigger for predators. He stopped just an inch from her face, breathing slowly. His cologne mixed with the damp musk of the dungeon. Then, slowly, he reached for her cheek, gently brushing her face with the back of his hand. You're still hiding something, he murmured. And I'm going to find out what. With that, he turned around and walked out, leaving Maya alone, shaken but standing. As soon as the door slammed behind him, she exhaled, her knees almost giving way. She placed her fingers on the side of her face, just over the lens, and blinked twice. The signal resumed. Did you get that? She whispered. Back at the cyber agency, chaos reigned. One agent slammed her fist on the desk. He knows something. Maya's compromised. Then we move in, another shouted. But the team leader raised a hand. No. We still don't have his exact location. We've narrowed it to a 2-mile radius, underground. If we strike now, we risk losing them both. The room fell silent. The footage replayed in loops on various screens, the photo, the words, the way he looked at Maya. And suddenly, one of the junior agents pointed. Wait, freeze that. On the wall behind the man, in a fraction of a second, was a marking, faded and cracked but unmistakable. A logo. The emblem of a decommissioned asylum that had gone underground years ago. Back in the dungeon, Maya was taken back to her cell. But tonight, there was something different. A girl was crying, somewhere nearby. Not a scream of fear, but grief. Maya pressed her ear against the steel wall. It was her sister. The girl was mumbling, her voice trembling as she recited the Lord's Prayer. It took every ounce of Maya's willpower not to scream. Her sister was alive, and she was nearby. But breaking down now would cost them both everything. She sat back, blinking deliberately to send a new signal. Sister confirmed. Mark location by echo source. We're not done yet. Suddenly, red lights flashed down the hallway. Alarms blared. Something had happened. The guards began shouting, storming past Maya's cell. The ground trembled slightly, and Maya could feel the shift. An external breach. Back at the cyber agency, the team had made a decision. They sent in a drone pod, small, snake-like, and silent. Equipped with infrared, mapping sensors, and most importantly, a direct relay to Maya's lens. It was now in the sewer lines beneath the suspected location, following heat trails and vibrations. In Maya's cell, the vibrations increased. Then, she noticed something: the wall beside her bed was slightly cracked at the base. A gust of cold air brushed against her foot. She knelt, pried gently at the panel, and it gave way to reveal a narrow tunnel. No time to think. She entered. The path was tight and steep, filled with dust and ancient spiderwebs. At the end of the tunnel, she emerged into a massive chamber, one she had never seen. Cages lined the walls, some open, others still locked. In one corner, a giant monitor displayed multiple feeds, including one of her own cell. And then, a voice. "Welcome, Maya." A spotlight flickered on. The man stood at the top of a staircase, watching her from above like a theater director admiring his play. "I knew you'd find this place," he said, descending slowly. "Only the best survive. And I've always liked winners." Maya took a step back. He raised a small device and pressed a button. Behind her, the tunnel closed shut. She was trapped. "I could kill you now," he said, circling her. "But I won't. You fascinate me. And I need to know, who's been watching through your eyes?" Maya blinked twice again. Signal jammed. The screen at the agency went dark. A wave of panic hit the tech room. "We've lost her," one of them gasped. "She's underground, and alone." The silence after the man's question was suffocating. Maya stood still, her eyes fixed on his. She didn't blink. Couldn't afford to. He knew something. And she knew that he was no longer playing. "You know," he said, pacing like a predator circling its prey, "I've seen fear before. But you hide yours like a professional. Almost like you've been trained." He stopped abruptly and leaned in. "Tell me, Maya. Who's watching us?" She clenched her jaw but said nothing. Her heart pounded, but she met his gaze with icy calm. He smirked. "Fine. Let's make this fun." With a snap of his fingers, a large screen descended from the ceiling behind him. Surveillance footage flickered to life, live camera feeds, old recordings, and angles she had never noticed during her stay. He had eyes everywhere. But what chilled her to the bone wasn't the video, it was what came next. A live feed of her sister, strapped to a chair, blindfolded. Breathing hard. "If you don't talk," he said, voice now cold, "she becomes my next experiment." Maya's fists clenched. "Don't touch her," she whispered. "Oh, so you do care." Finally, some truth. He clicked another button. A sharp electrical sound buzzed from the screen as Maya's sister winced in pain. A mild electric shock, just enough to terrify her, not enough to kill. "I know everything that happens in this place," the man continued. "Except for you. You're the anomaly. The variable I can't predict. That makes you dangerous." Maya tried to remain calm, but her hands trembled slightly behind her back. Her lens was no longer transmitting. She blinked rapidly, then slow. Still nothing. Back at the agency, chaos hadn't subsided. "Signal's dead," a voice rang out. "She's blacked out." The lead agent leaned forward. "We've got one shot. Activate the auto-tracker on the lens. If she's still alive, it'll pick up biosigns." Beeping filled the room. Slowly, a pulsing dot reappeared on the map. She's alive. But she's deeper than we thought, beneath the surveillance blind zone. Deploy the mobile team, the commander said. This guy's getting sloppy. Back inside the dungeon, Maya was dragged from the room and thrown into a narrow cell, nothing but stone, a bucket of water, and a mat. But she smiled. Because the mat was hers. Her back had worn it in. And underneath it, hidden in the fibers from the first day she arrived, was a small magnet, disguised as a sewing button. One she had discreetly detached from a guard's uniform months ago. She dug it out, turned, and pressed it against the steel screw of her bed frame. Sparks flickered. The lens blinked blue. Connection re-established. From the agency's side, the video was pixelated but alive. A dim, grainy feed of Maya's cell reappeared. She did it, someone gasped. Bless her soul, said another. The commander leaned forward. Pull all audio, visual, and biometric data. We're going in. Get me the mobile ops team. Back in the dark, Maya lay down and closed her eyes, whispering, "They're coming, I just need time." But she had no idea how much time she had left. Because somewhere above her, in a control room filled with flickering screens, the man was pacing again. Watching. And smiling. She blinked, he said softly, tapping a pen against his lips. 3 times. Pause. Then twice. That's not just fear. He pressed another button. A video from days ago replayed, Maya watching a scene of torture without flinching. Her pupils barely dilated. She's seen worse, he muttered. She's been trained. Then he looked directly into the nearest camera. Hello, to whoever is watching. He waved. Elsewhere, in a dark chamber lit only by candlelight and a single cracked monitor, an old man watched the feed too. His face was scarred. His eyes watery but wise. He picked up a dusty phone and dialed a long string of numbers. It's begun, he whispered. The girl, she's one of ours. The voice on the other end hesitated. Then we must intervene. No, he said. Not yet. Let her finish what we started. But watch her closely. She is more important than we thought. Back in the dungeon, Maya was summoned again. This time to a room she hadn't seen before. It was warm. Cozy even. Books lined the walls. A grand piano sat in the corner. It felt out of place. Like walking into a completely different world. The man sat behind a desk, sipping tea. He gestured for her to sit. No restraints this time, he said softly. Let's talk. She hesitated but sat. I used to be a teacher, you know, he began. Maya didn't answer. Brilliant students. Especially the women. They were full of light. But the world dimmed them. He paused, taking another sip. So I built this place. To keep the light safe. To preserve beauty, before the world destroys it. Maya stared at him. You're insane. He chuckled. That's what they always say, until they see the truth. He leaned forward. Do you want to know why I chose you? Maya didn't move. You reminded me of her. He tapped the piano. My daughter. She died, 5 years ago. Brave like you. Sharp. But she trusted the wrong people. Just like you're doing now. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. He wasn't lying. But his truth was still a nightmare. Suddenly, alarms blared. This time different. Urgent. Red lights swirled through the ceiling. Security breach, a voice called. The man stood, alert. Who's here? He demanded. Maya smiled. You wanted to meet the people watching through my eyes? They're here. He turned slowly. Rage washed over his face. He grabbed her by the arm, dragged her toward the control chamber. Outside, the agency's mobile team had breached the surface tunnel and was descending fast. Explosions echoed through the corridors. Gas was released. Maya coughed hard. The man tossed her inside a steel vault and slammed the door. "Game's over," he hissed. But Maya wasn't done. She reached into her shoe, removed a micropin blade, one she had smuggled and hidden weeks ago. She began cutting the insulation on the vent system above her. She crawled through the narrow duct, bruised and bloodied, until she reached an overhead grate. Below her, her sister. Alone. Weak. Crying. Maya's eyes welled up. "Hold on," she whispered. "I'm here." Through the narrow vent shaft, Maya peered into the cell where her sister, Leah, sat shivering, her wrists bound to an iron chair. The overhead light flickered dimly, casting erratic shadows on the damp walls. It had been days, maybe weeks, since she'd seen her, and the sight nearly broke her resolve. But not yet. Not now. She wiped a tear with the back of her hand, steadied her breath, and unscrewed the vent cover silently. Her bruised body dropped from the ceiling like a ghost. She landed with a soft thud and froze, watching the security camera mounted at the corner. Still blinking. She sprinted to the wall panel and yanked the exposed wires from the back. Sparks flew. The camera died. "Leah," she whispered urgently, rushing to her sister. "It's me." Leah lifted her head slowly, dazed. "Maya? It's okay. I'm here. We're getting out." "But he said he'd kill us both." "Let him try," Maya replied, pulling a pin from her hair and picking the lock on the cuffs. Just as the second cuff clicked loose, the door slammed open. The man stood in the doorway. Not in his usual black. Now in combat gear. Gun in hand. "Touching reunion," he growled. "But it's time to say goodbye." He aimed. Maya lunged forward, shielding Leah. A loud bang echoed. But Maya didn't feel pain. She opened her eyes, confused. The man staggered backward, blood seeping through his vest. Behind him, one of his own guards had fired. A tall woman stepped forward, her eyes steely behind tactical goggles. "Agent Nyla," she announced. "Cyberops. You're done." Maya pulled her sister up. "You're late," she said, her voice cracking. "Had to make a grand entrance," Nyla smirked. More agents poured in, guns raised. The compound rumbled under the weight of explosions as other teams stormed different wings of the dungeon. The man was down but not dead. As medics surrounded him, Maya walked over. "You tortured innocent girls," she said, voice low. "Kept them like pets. You think pain makes you a god?" He chuckled weakly. "Pain reveals truth. You of all people should know that." "No," she whispered. "Pain made me fight back." She turned away. As she and Leah were escorted through the now burning halls of the underground dungeon, Maya looked back one last time. They had made it. But this wasn't over. 3 days later, at the Cyberops headquarters. Leah lay resting in a recovery pod. Her vitals were stable. The nightmares had started to fade. Maya, meanwhile, stood in a glass chamber overlooking the city. Her contact lens had been removed. Her injuries were healing. But her mind was restless. Nyla entered, holding a tablet. "Debrief is over. He's in custody. His entire network is unraveling." Maya didn't turn. "How did he know?" Nyla sighed. "We traced a signal leak, internal sabotage. One of our junior analysts was feeding intel to an external buyer. Possibly someone in his circle." Maya finally looked at her. "So we weren't just up against him. Nyla nodded. No. This goes deeper. We think there are more facilities. More girls. More monsters hiding behind masks of wealth and charm. Maya's jaw tightened. Then we find them. All of them. Nyla studied her for a moment. You know this doesn't have to be your burden, right? You could walk away now. After all you've done. Maya cut her off. Walking away doesn't bring the others back. Silence. Then Nyla said softly, we're forming a new unit. Off books. Eyes everywhere. We need someone who understands the dark and can still walk through it. Maya smiled faintly. When do we start? In a secret location. A man with a scar across his chin watches the news report on the raid. He sits in a lavish room, sipping wine. He pauses the screen on Maya's face. Interesting girl, he murmurs. Another voice responds from the shadows. She survived him. She won't be easy. He turns slowly. All the more reason to study her. Begin the test. Let's see what she does next. The coldness of the underground cell was no match for the chill that ran down Maya's spine that night. She sat silently, eyes red from the smoke she'd inhaled earlier when the monster dragged her from the torture hall. Her mind replayed every second, his laugh, the fear in her sister's eyes, and the condition he gave, stay with me forever, or watch your sister die. He had let her go. He had let her sister go. But only because he knew he had won. He thought he had crushed the fire in Maya's soul. But Maya was just getting started. 2 days earlier. At the cybersecurity agency, tension reigned. Monitors flickered with images from Maya's contact lens feed, her cell, the man's face, the hidden cages, the wild beasts. Everything had been recorded, catalogued, prepared for Operation Hellstorm, the secret mission to raid the premises and expose the horror. But suddenly, the feed went black. Panic set in. Agent Collins, Maya's handler, slammed his fist against the desk. We lost her signal. No one spoke. The room was silent except for the whirring of machines. But what they didn't know was that someone inside that very room was watching closely, and feeding the monster every move they made. Back in the dungeon. The man's mood had changed. No longer amused by Maya's resistance, he became obsessed with testing her limits. Every evening, he summoned her to watch his gruesome acts. And every evening, she sat beside him, silent, numb, resisting the urge to leap at him and end it all with her bare hands. She had to play along. The monster called her his pet eagle. He believed she was broken. But her mind was sharper than ever. During her silent hours, Maya began observing patterns. The guard's rotations. The gas generator's location. The kitchen's entry. How often the fire exits were checked. Every detail mattered now. Because Maya had decided, if help wouldn't come, she'd bring down the dungeon herself. Meanwhile, miles away. Amara, Maya's younger sister, had found her way back to safety after being released. But she was restless, filled with guilt for leaving her sister behind. She tried to reach the agency but got no response. So she did what she never imagined, she went back to the county. Disguised as a job seeker, she moved carefully, speaking to street hawkers, cleaners, and delivery boys around the perimeter of the building. She needed a way in, or a sign that her sister was still alive. What she didn't know was that Maya had already planted the seed for a full escape, and a final confrontation. In the shadows of the agency. The mole was about to strike again. He slipped into the secure lab at midnight, bypassed 2 firewalls, and initiated a system dump. With cold hands, he transferred every single detail of Operation Hellstorm to a secure drive and sent it to a private server. The next morning, Maya was summoned. The man was waiting, wine in one hand, a pistol in the other. I should have known, he said calmly, eyes piercing hers. Only someone like you could try something so bold. Maya didn't flinch. So what now? He smirked. Now? I keep you close. Very close. He waved to his guards. She doesn't sleep in the cell anymore. She sleeps upstairs. Where I can see her. Every minute. Later that night. In a corner of the building where only shadows walked, Maya whispered to the girls in the cell through a crack in the wall. The plan is changing, she said. I thought the agency was coming, one whispered back. They were. But someone betrayed us. Gasps echoed softly. We don't have time. I need you all to be ready. When I say run, you run. No questions. And you? One asked. Maya hesitated. Her fingers clutched the rusted bars of the hidden vent between them. I'll be the distraction. Back upstairs. The man stared out the window, sipping his wine. His most trusted guard approached. We caught another girl snooping around the back entrance. Let her in, he said. But she might be useful. It was Amara. Maya saw her just as the guards dragged her in. Their eyes met. Maya shook her head subtly. But Amara didn't blink. She smiled as if everything was fine. Maya's heart shattered in her chest. Not her sister again. Not this place again. This time, no one was escaping alive, unless Maya made the ultimate move. The thick silence of the night was broken by the low hum of the gas generator tucked behind the east wing of the mansion. The same generator that had been the heart of the building's electricity, and now, the heart of Maya's final plan. She had watched everything. Every shift rotation. Every fuel refill. Every hesitation in the guards' movements. She had counted steps, memorized angles, timed the night patrol's bathroom breaks. Everything was ready. All she needed now, was the perfect moment. And it came faster than she expected. Earlier that evening. The man's mood had soured. Ever since Amara's return, something in him had snapped. He no longer smiled at Maya. He watched her, studied her, as though trying to read a book in a language he didn't understand. His questions became pointed. Why did you never scream when I hurt others in front of you? Why did you never run when I left your door unlocked last week? Why are you still alive when the others are breaking? Maya gave him the same answer every time. Because I've already died inside. And that answer kept him guessing. But she wasn't broken. She was boiling. That night, the man had an unusual dinner set for the girls. For the first time, he let them out of their cells together and had them sit in a dimly lit hall, supervised by armed guards, to celebrate what he called their new life. Maya played along. She whispered to each of them as she moved about. One message. One command. When you hear a bang, run for your life. Don't stop. Don't turn back. They didn't ask questions. Their eyes were hollow with pain but sparked with something they hadn't felt in years, hope. Midnight. The moon hung low, almost hidden behind thick clouds. Maya moved through the shadows, barefoot, silent, ghost-like. She crept past the sleeping guards, used a stolen keycard to unlock the east wing, and slipped into the generator room. The air reeked of oil and gas. She remembered this smell. She had studied the valve positions for weeks. She knew exactly what to do. With trembling hands, she twisted the main valve, slowly at first. Then, wide open. The hiss of gas filled the room like a whispering storm. Then she reached into her pocket, her secret stash of matchsticks. The one item the monster had never thought to check because he believed she was finally his puppet. She stepped back, stared at the leaking pipe, then whispered, "For every girl you hurt, may this fire burn a little hotter." Then she left. Alarms rang. The moment the gas leaked into the hallways, the smell triggered panic. Guards ran. Workers shouted. Confusion echoed through the building. The man stepped out of his room, confused, angry, suspicious. Maya. No response. He ran to the generator wing. She was waiting. The matchbox dangled in her hand. Her eyes, steady. Unafraid. Maya, what are you doing? You told me I could stay forever. Put that down. Let them go. Let the girls go. I'll kill them all. Right now. She smiled. You won't have the time. And just then, boom. A fire alarm from a careless spark somewhere else lit the hallway. Screams erupted. The guards started scattering. And the girls? They ran. Just as planned. The distraction had begun. Chaos. Flames. Screams. The man pulled his pistol and fired, bang. The bullet hit Maya in the chest. She dropped to her knees. Blood spilled. But her eyes never left his. With the last breath left in her, she struck the match, dropped it, and whispered. For every girl. I rise. And fire swallowed the dungeon. Morning. Black smoke curled into the sky. The mansion was gone. Authorities stood at the wreckage with blankets, trying to console the rescued girls. Amara sat on a bench, covered in soot, tears in her eyes as she stared into the distance. Agent Collins approached her slowly. She did it, didn't she? Amara nodded. She ended it, so it never happens again. They stood there in silence, watching the ruins of a place where evil once reigned. A place where brave hearts were broken, but one chose to burn herself just to give others a second chance. A month later, the survivors gathered in a safe house. They created a foundation. A home. A system to educate other girls, teach them to recognize danger, and most importantly, to fight back. They called it the Maya Flame Initiative. And in the heart of the building was a small plaque, black and gold, with the words. She burned so others could breathe. Maya, our fire, our freedom.